So I was born way out in the country, so called a little town called Orange in New South Wales, and quickly moved to Newcastle, which has been my hometown ever since I was 4 years old. So I had a great upbringing. It was, we weren't a high class family, but we were probably a middle income family. My dad worked away a lot, so it was just my mum and my two sisters. It was one of those things where I was really academic. I was super into my maths and English and sang in the choir. I sang at the Sydney Opera House when I was in primary school, which was really cool. Not that I can sing now. I cannot sing at all to save my life now. But then, in year eight, I discovered eyeliner and boys. And then my academic life kind of went downhill a little bit because I was sidetracked. And it was a humbling experience. But then I got into a relationship when I was 16, was on the back end of 15, and he ended up being a 2 year domestic violence relationship. So that probably started me on my journey to being where I am now, as to being advocating for resilience and happiness and getting away from trauma.
So if you guys started dating when you were sort of 15, 16, how long were you guys together for?
2 years.
Yeah, right. So
2 years. Yeah.
that was domestic violence when you were that age. Yeah, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So that was a hidden domestic violence situation. He was a gym junkie, and he would come out from the gym and test his strength because I think he was on steroids or something. I'm not too sure, but he would come out and he would want to test his strength and see how much stronger he was getting. So he, would come out to me and lay a fist on my arms or my legs, and he wanted to see what color he could get my bruises to determine how strong he was getting. So it wasn't like a very, very obvious form of domestic violence where I wasn't getting hit in the face, and he would then love bomb me. So if he would hit me or hurt me and I would cry from it, he would then go out and buy me a Guess handbag or a Peter Alexander pajamas or a JHD hair straightener or something like that. And yeah, it was an interesting start to my adolescence.
Wow. And was he a few years older than you if he had the money to go out and buy these Guess handbags and all these types of things?
Well, he was only 2 years older than me,
Yeah.
surprisingly. But he was working. So he
Mm,
was doing Wild Surf Co. I think it was called back in the day. It was like our
mm.
version of City Beach now. So
Yeah.
he had money, but he didn't
Yeah.
was like wasn't extraordinarily wealthy or anything like that.
Yeah, gotcha. And were you guys living together or were you still living at home or?
No, I was living at home, so I was at the disgruntledness of my parents. They were not
Mm,
happy that I was dating this other guy who lived in another suburb, and he also didn't go to my school, which made it really easy. So it was a good situation where I could just escape from home because not the home life was bad, but it was just me
mm,
being in my rebellious teen years, being like, I'm just going to go off here with this other guy and do this. But my parents had no idea what was going on
mm,
in the background.
mm. Yeah, right. That's not very nice for a young lady to be going through. And what about your parents? Are they still alive and still in Newcastle and those types of things or?
Yeah, so they're both still alive. So my dad now lives on the Gold Coast. So they both got divorced when I was 18, I believe.
Yeah.
So they had a relatively great marriage up until, the last couple of years when financial stress really hit quite hard. And we've got a history of depression and things like that. So on my mum's side, so it was very very much financial stress, depression, and mental health that came in to divide our family, which was not ideal at the time, but everything's great now.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's good that things are good now. So you were 18, your parents divorced, and your dad moved up to Gold Coast. Was that sort of when you sort of left the nest and started, working for yourself and things like that? Did you go to year 12 or did you only go to year 10 or?
No, I dropped out in year 10. So I went through like a bit of bullying at school, and did not want to be at school at all. So I ended up skipping a whole term of term three just before my school certificate. And, the principal called my mum, and he's just like, she's not going to graduate. She's skipping school left, right, and center. And mum's just like, I had no idea this was going on. And I just said I did not want to be at school at all. It wasn't a part of who I wanted to be. And then, yeah, it was just one of those things. So when I flew the nest, like I had strong ambitions to be wealthy, to be career driven. And so I got my first job. Well, I got my first job when I was 15 in a takeaway shop, but then I went into a jewelry shop, which was Proud's the Jewelers now. And then I went into a law firm at 17 and that's when after my domestic violent relationship, I found another guy as well, and him and I got into a serious relationship pretty early, and we had dreams of owning a house, so we both went and bought a house together at 18.
Wow.
Yeah, so I flew the nest pretty quick.
Yeah, yeah, you did. And so how long were you with that next partner? Because I'm pretty sure you guys aren't together now. Is that right?
Yeah, no, definitely not together now, but we were together for approximately 3 or 4 years, I think.
Yep.
I feel like the time went so quick. It was,
Yeah.
and we young adults too, you get pretty mindless on some things, and we had breaks in between here and there, and we renovated our house and then sold it and moved on. So which
Yep.
was it was a nice introduction actually. That was a nice relationship going from the previous one into that one and starting your property portfolio as well. That was really interesting.
Yeah. Well, you must have been very driven to be buying your first house at 18. I mean, that's very impressive.
Yeah, I did not want to be poor at all.
So you were 18, you bought your first house, and then what were you doing for work at that time?
Then I was in property management. So I went from being in real estate, like as a receptionist in real estate, because my mum worked in real estate for a long time. And there was another lady who mum worked with, and she was a very high end saleswoman in Newcastle. And I
Mm.
just idolized the bits off her. I thought she was phenomenal. She always looked amazing. And I was like, that's what I want to do. And she drove a Lexus. And that kind of set me on my trajectory as to me being wanting to be in real estate. So I was like, well, that's the way I can be a woman. I can make money. So yeah,
Yeah.
so I got into real estate pretty quick.
What was your experience like? And did you make it to sales, or did you sort of leave before you got into sales as well?
I eventually made it to sales, which was really exciting, but the road to get to sales was probably a little bit more tedious than what I thought. So I was in property management for a number of years, had a massive rent roll. I had really big dreams. So I was working in the same company that my mum worked for along with the woman who I really aspired to be like. So I said to my boss, had a lot of determinations. I was like, I want to be a sales agent. And
Mm.
he's just like, no, you don't have the brains to be a sales agent. He's like, stick with what you know. You're better off, like, your looks are one thing. I guess you can get far ahead in your career with your looks, but your brain's probably not so much. So it was, that was my little kick in the guts too. But
Mm.
he also, in that industry, he was very much, he would look at my phone to look at the pictures that I've taken of my houses that I did routine inspections for, but then I'd be like, okay, yeah, like you can only look at those photos. And back in those days, on iPhones, you didn't have a hidden folder or anything like that where you can hide certain things. And he
Yeah.
ended up just going through my photos on my phone and obviously saw some risque photos, and he thought that that was his clear ticket to trying to get in my pants, which was really kind of like the start of an ongoing battle of trying to be like, well, I want to get into sales, but I'm not going to get there sleeping with my boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a that's a really horrible thing to someone to say, that you're not smart enough to do, the sales, no matter who it is, because, anyone can do whatever they want if they're passionate enough and driven enough, and they might have to study a little bit harder, or it might take a little bit longer. And I'm sure that wouldn't have been the case for you. But it's interesting in life where, when people want to rise up, there's often like these, you can't do that, or you won't be able to do that, or, isn't that an interesting thing? Like, a lot of times whenever we're trying to, rise up and sort of break the mold, we have, like, obviously this was your boss, but whether it's your boss or a brother or a friend saying you can't do this, you can't do that, what would you say about that?
Yeah, I think it's so our whole world is based on face value. So,
Mm.
and it's like when you are facing that kind of thing, I joke about it all the time. I've got blonde hair, so I always say to everyone, just keep everything as simple as possible. Like it's not, I take the piss out of myself all the time. For me, I know that I'm ambitious and I know that I'm intelligent, although it's taking me an extra 15 years on top of my journey where back in my primary school days, and I knew I was intelligent back then. And then along the lines, I had listened to men tell me that I wasn't smart enough. I was in the modeling industry as well. So, you're basically a coat hanger and you get told. So I went through a really elite modeling school. I was selected to go down to there and live in Melbourne for a number of years. And they told me my teeth weren't good enough. So then, therefore, I wouldn't be able to make it to be on the front cover of Vanity Fair. And it was like, it's all of these things, especially I think in the modeling industry, when you're told to be a certain way and to look a certain way and act a certain way, you eventually kind of take that on board and you think, well, maybe I'm just not good enough. But it's just got to have that internal belief that you are smart enough and
Mm,
not listen to the outside world, because it's taken me a long time. I've only just discovered that in the last 2 years, that it takes just sheer determination to believe in yourself that you will get to where you want to go.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's yeah. That I'm sure there's a lot of young ladies that go through this stuff, and it doesn't make it right. But it's I guess it's comforting to know that people like yourself have risen up and have moved on, and now you're leading with your business, but also in the community, and people can see that even though people have tore you down, you've kept going, and it's possible to keep going. But yeah, it's an interesting thing because obviously, and I'm not saying this lightly, but with every sort of plus there's a negative. Like obviously, you know what I
Yeah.
mean. It's I've got strengths, I've got weaknesses. You've got strengths, you've got weaknesses. Like it's probably sometimes it might be good to be a better looking lady. You might get more opportunities, but sometimes stuff like that happens. So I don't say this lightly, but it's like you wouldn't want to be you wouldn't want to say, oh, I wish I'd be really unattractive lady or blah blah blah, but you don't want the not nice comments either. So it's like, what do? You just got to work with what you got and do the best you can.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always not really seen myself as that way inclined. As I never look at in the mirror and think, oh God damn, you're attractive like that. That's never been my first thought or any kind of thought. And I think so. It's been hard for me to understand what other people see from the outside looking in. But I'm just like, I just want people, like, as through my working career when I was working for male bosses, and I would come against this a lot. So my last male boss that I worked for, he said to me, he's just like, remember that sex sells. And that was my determination to work for myself, because I was like, I refuse to work for anyone else because I didn't want to be
Yeah.
objectified again. So like I've gone and had a part-time job in the meantime, in the midst of all, running businesses and needing an income. I have worked for another male boss, and he was great. Like there was nothing like that, and there was nothing like that from my other male colleagues as well. So like I've had lots of things from other male colleagues where people just think that they're allowed to overstep the line because it's general flirtation, or it's just a little bit of banter and you can't take it too seriously. And I think that in life, you've got options, like your choice. You can choose to let it bring you down, or you can choose to find a way to move past it and just, you're in your own rat race for a reason. You've got to believe in yourself to get there.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because talking about sex sells, but also like controversy sells as well. And like, for me, getting into YouTube and, making some content and, you know what I mean? Like there's certain boundaries that you don't want to cross, you know what I mean? You don't want to, like for sex, you don't want to go sleeping with whoever, but for content, you don't want to go, making stuff that's too, like I don't want to bring anyone else down, or not that I'm going into that road, but you know what I mean? I'm just saying like there's things in life where you could do it and it might get you ahead, but if you're, um, what's it called? Like your conscience doesn't, it's not right, then it's not right. It might get your head faster, but if it's not the right thing, it's not the right thing.
Yeah, if it's the cost of bringing other people down, then it's not worth it. But in this day and age too, everyone's in it for themselves. Like
Yeah.
CEOs are in it for themselves. It's not a we take each other and we rise together. It's not been about that for a long time. And I think that's what I'm trying to do in business, is where I'm now teaching business, is because I've had such a vast experience in my business world, is that now I can actually say to people with confidence, yeah, this is actually the next step that you need to take, or this is a way that we can figure it out. And the best part about me having a lot of self insecurities and not being high on my intelligence, like not having a whole lot of belief in my intelligence, is that I've been able to break everything down into really simple terms. And I like things being in plain English. They don't need to be, I know a lot of really big long words and a lot of things that a lot of people don't know, but it doesn't mean anything if that knowledge you can't pass it on to other people of any caliber who can. Everyone needs to be able to understand it. You can't, like,
Mm.
being the smartest person in the room does not mean anything. Like, you always need to be, in my opinion, you always need to be the dumbest person in the room, because then you have something to learn.
Yeah, yeah. And there's no point being that smart and you're almost isolated away from everyone too. So you're like, yeah, you want to be humble and those types of things. But all right, so what was your first business? So you had a bit of a career and you were doing real estate and you were doing a few other things, and at one point you went, all right, I want to work for myself. I don't want to have to be under these conditions where people are looking at you and thinking this is sex sells and blah blah blah. And so, what was your first business you went into?
So I actually opened up a tattoo removal clinic, which was the strangest thing, but it was one of my friends who he went to go through the military and he
Mm,
had a very small star tattoo on his hand and he actually couldn't get through the recruitment stage because of the tattoo on his hand. And I heard the problem that he was saying about, back this was this was 10 years ago now, nearly 10 years ago. And he was just like, it's so hard to get it removed because there's not actually all that many places around and it costs a lot of money. I was like, well, surely it can't be that hard.
mm.
And so I kind of put the thought out there. I put the thought into the universe, and I was like, actually, this is what I want to do. I want to open up a tattoo removal clinic and help military recruits get into the military.
That's
So
so cool.
the universe then decided to deliver, and like literally a tattoo removal clinic came up for sale in my local area,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, thank you. Well, we'll do that.
Wow, wow. So, whereabouts was the tattoo clinic or removal clinic?
In Mayfield.
Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
is that still going? Do you still own it, or have you changed from there? Or
No, so I had a little heartbreak with that one. So we were successful for 3 years. So I actually opened the doors, and 6 weeks later, I became pregnant with my daughter. Now she's nearly 6.
yeah, wow.
And I had a high risk pregnancy while I ran that clinic. I ran it by myself, and then my mum was also working for us as well.
Mm.
But yeah, it was going really well. And then we had COVID. Then COVID shut us down for a few months. Then we came back, and we came back after lockdown, and that was great. But then we had the second lockdown, and the second lockdown, a couple of weeks after we opened up from the second lockdown, our laser machine decided to stop working on the touch screen.
Oh,
So they're a $150,000 machine, and if the banks looked at us and they're just like, well, you haven't had any income for a few months, so we can't help you. And I was
wow.
just like, okay, well, that was the closure of that chapter, it was really sad. I wanted to do anything I could, but yeah, it was a blessing in disguise because in between when we were working with that, we still needed my ex-husband at the time who worked away in the mines. So we started with car trailers. We bought a couple of car trailers in between that time and worked it up to be so successful. Then we invested into plant equipment. So it was good. So we were able to shut that down and focus on the plant equipment hire business. And, I was able to focus on my daughter as well, which was nice.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so basically COVID, which shut down a lot of business, in a sense, it sort of
Yeah.
shut down your business because if it wasn't for COVID, you would have had the income and then you could have. But I mean, it sounds like whether you would have wanted to reinvest another 150,000, you would have had to, look at it and see whether it was worth it. Because
Yeah.
I mean, so how many that well, that's about 4 or 5 years ago. Because I think the machines are obviously would be a lot cheaper now, but because I think it was really only just starting to get popular like 5 or 10 years ago, wasn't it? So yeah,
Yeah, so I wanted it to be because we had a couple in Newcastle that were very clinicky, and I wanted
yeah,
mine to turn into a studio because my target audience was guys in the military. I was
mm,
like, well, guys, they don't want to just generally get their tattoos removed, so we'll make the studio similar to a tattoo studio, so they
yeah,
kind of feel a little bit more at home because people hate going to doctors and clinics and things. It was a lot more. It was much more of a warmer space,
mm,
which was nice. But yeah, it's become still a fad where it's still clinics basically, unfortunately, but it's a high demand industry.
yeah, yeah. I'm sure it's growing more popular now, and the barrier to entry would be lower because the machines are cheaper now and things like that. But yeah, that's interesting. So tell me about the plant hire business. How like that? You started off with a couple of trailers, and your ex partner was sort of working the mines, and you had the laser clinic going, and then the plant hire business sort of really took off.
Yeah, so that ended up being a fairly successful business. We had four car trailers, we had a three-way tipper trailer, we had box trailers, we had a excavator, a skid steer, posi track, all of these little bits and pieces, and
Yeah.
it was great, but oh my God, it was one of the most tiring businesses I've ever come across. So I had my little one, even when I was 8 months pregnant, heavily 8 months pregnant, I would literally have guys standing there watch me while I loaded up the trailer for them.
Wow.
And I'd be underneath the car with, car fumes going, trying to hook up hitches and plugs and things. And I was like, this is not ideal. And then I went into doing some wet hire as well with my partner. And so I learned how to operate excavators and things like that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really it wasn't my jam. We would have people, go missing with the machines. So I would have to go traveling with my 6-month-old daughter at 10:30 at night trying to find the machines. And it was just, people would damage them. It would be stressful. You would get a lot of money,
Mm,
but yeah, the stress of having things get damaged, and you take it really personally too, because it's like it's your assets that you're loaning to people, and when it comes back and completely damaged or literally gets stolen or goes missing, you take it really personally. So it's one of those things. And we ran it from home too. So people would rock up at any time. We would tell people, you need to make an appointment, you need to make a booking, but people would just rock up anytime. So I'd be in the middle of a shower and people would just rock up. And I'd be like, I just want 5 minutes to myself. Like, that's it.
yeah. Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, so you
Yeah.
guys were sort of, if you kept going, it would have been nearly time to get a yard, but it
Yeah.
sounds like you were just in that point where you were getting really busy because 4 or 5 trailers and a couple of little bits and bobs of machines must have had a pretty big space for the equipment.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, so we were on a little bit of land, not a huge amount of land, but my ex-husband, he's taken that now and he's shifted into another company. I don't really pay much attention to it now, but yeah, for me it was just I was burnt out, I was exhausted, I was stressed. No amount of money could make me happy, and in turn it affected my marriage too, which was, yeah, probably the saddest part about it.
Yeah, yeah. So you guys are separated now, yeah?
Yeah, happily divorced.
Yeah, yeah. So you guys separated and he's still got the business going, but he's sort of changed a little bit of the direction of it by the sounds of it.
Yeah, so we ended up selling all of the car trailers like in the midst of the separation because he just wanted to focus on plant equipment, and he's changed the name and things like that too.
Mm,
So which is which I get people still calling me asking me to do something for them. I was like, oh no, go to Mick, and they're just like, actually, no, no, that's okay. We'll call someone else. Which, whatever that reason is, I'm not sure, but yeah, it was. I think for me being a female in that industry, it was a nice breath of fresh air for a lot of our customers because they're so used to dealing with really rigid kind of blokes where I just come in and we talk generally and I'd be a little bit softer on, the damage stance and things like that. But then also at the same token too, I would get taken on face value. I knew a lot of the machines like the back of my hand, and a lot of our customers didn't want to listen to me. So
mm.
I would explain to them, like even first time hires who've never driven an excavator before, I'd be telling them like, this is what you've got to do. They're just like, fuck, what do you know?
Yeah, right. So okay, and then so that one you guys sort of separated and yous have both moved on, which is, great if you're both happy now. That's cool. And what was the next business?
Well, in between doing so after COVID and when we were doing the plant equipment hire business, I just wanted something for myself. So I wanted to feed my creativity because I've always been a drawer and an artist. And for a number of years beforehand, I was just doing friends' logos for their businesses and not really charging anything. And so I was like, well, I'm going to go through university, get my graphic design degree,
Wow.
and start my graphic design business. So I was doing, yeah, graphic design for a while, for a couple of years. I'm still doing it now, and I was doing logos and brands for a lot of small businesses, and they would come to me and they'd be like, "Okay, well, I've got my logo. Now what do I do?"
Mm,
And I was like, "Well, surely there needs to be something out there teaching everyone how to start a business outside of going to Google." But there was nothing that I could find at all. And I was like,
mm,
"Well, I've got all the experience, so I put all of my knowledge from the years of me being in business, like the trials, the tribulations, and everything. Why not put that into a course and make it really easy, especially for Australians, because there's not much in Australia for us to understand what our business system's like, because we've actually got the most complex business system in the whole world. They end up doing research on every country and how to start a business, and Australia is one of the hardest ones.
wow.
Yeah,
So you did the whole degree for the business designing as well. Sorry, the graphic designing as well in
yeah,
between.
yeah.
Wow. So you must have been really driven. You must because you've got a young family. Your daughter's been born in that time. She's 6 years old now. You've gone to uni to do graphic design. You must have been burning the candle at both ends a few nights when you were doing your study.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was putting in 14, 16-hour days.
Mm,
Sometimes I would even go work part-time just at my sister's discount shop, just so then I would have a little bit of extra money for myself. So my ex-husband, he took control of the finances when we had our plant equipment hire business. So anything that I bought in, it was handed straight over. So I didn't really get to have anything for my own enjoyment. When yeah, I just wanted to fuel my own creativity. I wanted to have
mm.
purpose because the plant equipment was not what I was put on this earth to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I relate to that. That's sort of what's been happening with me over the last 12 months. Like I shut down my landscaping business probably 2 years ago, and then I was building the Curry Power Station, and then I was working in the mines and doing those types of jobs. But I was like, what do I want to do next? I didn't want to start another service-based business where every day you're running around quoting, going to the tip, just you're working like an absolute madman, and it's fun and it's enjoyable, and you make really good money, but it didn't have a passion for me anymore. So I was like, I need to find something where I can, make some money and help some people and do something else, which is, I'm not making any money at the moment, but yeah, this I actually enjoy it, and I think through the Long Way Out project we'll be able to help some people. But yeah, it's really important to find something that you not only enjoy doing, that you like doing. So yeah, I get what you're saying.
I think it's just important at any age that, it's been drummed into us for so long is that, as you're a young kid, you get a job, then get married, and then you have kids, and you're meant to stay on that 9 to 5 rat race for a long time, and having a business or doing something out of the norm is considered risky. It's just, I think, for having a purpose, and if you can find a way to make a living out of that purpose, you need to be happy. Like,
Yeah.
you can't take your toys with you to the grave. It's not worth it. But if you want to make an impact, you weren't put on this earth to not make an impact if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I mean, look, that's right. And it's an interesting thing because a lot of people, for 40 years or whatever it is when they're working, they're absolutely miserable. You know what I mean? And if you
Yeah.
don't like what you're doing, you may as well change it up and find the next thing. And whether that's starting a business or changing career or doing whatever, obviously, people have got to pay their bills, and that's important too. But I think your mental health and your well-being is probably really more important than, I mean, obviously you got to pay your bills and look after your family. But if you're not looking after yourself, then you probably can't look after your family properly because you're always going to be miserable.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you find that when you were in the mines and in landscaping?
Did I find that it was miserable, or?
Yeah.
Look, I enjoyed it while I was doing it. You know what I mean? I like the landscaping. I really enjoyed it while I was doing it as well. But I mean, yeah, it just got to the point where we had a lot of rain, and you're always chasing customers. You're always chasing money. You're always driving around doing quotes, and yeah, it didn't give me passion anymore. You know what I mean? It didn't. So I wanted to mix it up. But yeah, same with like when I was building the Curry Power Station, which is similar to the mines. Like you're earning great money, but yeah, you sort of, yeah, it didn't excite me anymore. For myself, I'm ADHD, so if I've found something that I'm interested in and passionate about, I can really focus a lot. But if I'm doing something that's doesn't give me purpose and joy, I'd rather move on to something else. So hopefully
Yeah.
now this is something that I can do long term, and it'll give me focus and joy. So yeah,
Okay. You're not going to know yourself now.
yeah, yeah. So you done your degree in, what was the degree again?
Graphic design.
Graphic design, and then through that process, you sort of had a few customers that were like, you've done my logo. What's next? It sounds like you were probably coaching them almost a bit over the phone and helping them a bit, and you were like, "There's a business here."
Yeah, yeah, there was. I would come in and I would set up their systems for them. So if they had a POS system, or if they needed their website done, I ended up working for Qantas and Amazon. So I designed all the Qantas HQ headquarters training platform down in Sydney. And
Wow.
I worked with the big companies. So like that's what I dreamt of doing, worked for the big guys, but I worked for them and they gave me no spark whatsoever. They're actually harder to work with than what my smaller clients were.
But
And
sorry to cut you off. You were working for them as a contractor, not as an employee.
yeah, as a contractor. So
Wow.
that was in the middle of COVID too. So
Wow.
they said to me, you can't come onto site unless you're vaccinated. And I was like, I don't really want to get vaccinated though. And it was hard. It was harder working for them because they didn't, getting brand colors and things like that, which you would think is fairly easy and something you can search on the internet. It's they've got all these rules and regulations as well, but the smaller guys, you hear their passion and
Yeah.
you hear their dreams, and it's like, I just want to help you get to where you want to be. Like
Yeah.
that's why I started the Business Vault, because I was like, well, I can take everything that I know and help people. I've the strongest belief that everyone can achieve their dreams if they want to. If they set their heart onto it, they can do it.
So is part of the Business Vault helping people with, their logo, their website, marketing? Is it a bundle package where you do everything, or do you show them how to do it themselves?
We do both.
You do
So
both.
we're
Yep.
very mindful of because starting business, right, it's expensive and bootstrapping and cash funding your own way. Like a lot of people are working 2 or 3 jobs just to pay for their business, and a lot of people these days they don't outsource anything. They're just with the world full of education and information, everyone's able to become pretty skillful at everything really quickly. So I can teach people if they want me to teach them how to create their own brand. Like we do Canva courses and things like that to really utilize Canva. So
Yeah.
then they're not paying for a graphic designer, and or we can do it for them. So yeah, we
Yeah.
can we can do the whole box and dice. So my graphic design agency has merged in with the Business Vault now. So
Ah,
it's
cool.
so like I won an award at the Auspreneur Awards in 2022 for digital services, and
Wow.
it was the biggest highlight, but also as humble as I was to receive it, it still didn't give me. I actually thought it was going to really put a spring in my step, but it didn't. It was just like, no, I've got more work to do. I've got greater work to do. This award doesn't mean it's an accomplishment and it's an accolade, but it's not the be all and end all. That's not what's going to make me successful. What's going to make me successful is having other people be successful as well.
Wow, that's a great mindset. So, before we move on to the business vault, I'm really interested to hear about your graphic design business and how you started it and what you were doing. Because, having these Qantas and those types of customers, that's pretty impressive. How did you do that? What was the first thing you did? Were you just cold calling? How were you getting these customers?
Now that's literally just word of mouth. So I was very grateful with building my business purely through word of mouth. I didn't really have to market it. I marketed it the first couple of months
Mm.
with my portfolio and things like that. But once I was able to get a couple of customers, and I treated my $100 customers as if they were $20,000 paying customers.
Yeah.
So I gave them as much of my time, my dedication, my knowledge as I possibly could. And then from there, so then it was just referral after referral. And that's what landed me to Qantas.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That's really
it
cool.
was really, really cool.
And I mean, now that you're doing business coaching, it's an interesting thing because what do you like? When you're starting, most people when they're starting, they don't really know about pricing and how to charge and those types of things. So, in your business venture, do you tell people to charge high straight away, or do you tell people when they're just starting, like, it doesn't really matter about the money as long as you're getting experience? And what would you say about
It's definitely about getting experience. It's about getting customers through the door,
that?
whatever that looks like. So it is about having people that come in that pay $100, so then you can treat them, and they will then all of these people, every one person's got a circle of 20 around them as a
Mm,
minimum. And it's like if that one person then goes to one person, then that one person's going to go to their 20. That could increase to 5 or 10 people. And it's a matter of when you're starting, particularly. And I think that's where a lot of the advice it's very contrasting advice from everyone in the business world. Is a lot of people say, yes, do price yourself high, but you also don't want to price yourself out of the market where people are going to look at you and be like, are you a dreamer? Like you
mm,
do just need to you need to increase steadily. So I had the Business Startup Essentials course, which is 82 topics covering finance, marketing, design, mental wellness, everything that you need to know to run a business. I
mm,
originally priced that at $499, like $499, because I was like, well, that took me a lot of time. That's a lot of knowledge for anyone to go through a business school. It's going to cost them thousands and thousands of dollars. But
yeah.
then I realized that actually I've even priced that too high, and that was so I've brought it down now to 249, 247 now it is.
Mm,
And it was just because I want to help people. So I want to be able to have it easily accessible. So it's a course that you can learn by yourself. You can then bring me on for a higher price to
mm,
teach you one on one. But it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to pivot as
mm,
you're going along. We feel like we've got to have everything perfect, and we've got to price ourselves not out of the market. We've got to make sure that we're making money and paying our bills, and it's about becoming smart. So while you are building that stage of getting to where you can increase your price and you are considered an elite and a professional in your field, then
mm,
it does take a couple of years to get there. Unless
mm,
if you're really, really niched.
mm,
Sometimes, like I looked at someone a couple of months ago, and she was charging $55,000 for 6 months worth of coaching. And I had been coached by her, and I had paid like a tiny, tiny fraction of that because that's
mm,
the price that she gave me.
mm,
Nowhere was it at the $55,000 level. And I was like, I don't actually know what you get for that $55,000. Like, why is it, they price themselves so because they want to be classed as the
Mm.
most elite person that there is. And I think depending on any industry, it's all just about seeing what your competition are doing. When
Yeah,
you focus yourself in with your competition, it actually makes it a lot easier. So I say to people that your competition in business is your best friend. They're
yeah.
not your enemies. It's not something to be scared of.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting topic because, like, with say my landscaping business and my other businesses, like I sort of, when I first started, I had a business coach slash mentor, and he was telling me, you got to charge this, you got to charge that, and he was right. But when I started, I charged a little bit less, and but you got to work up to it. You know what I mean? When you're first starting and you're getting your confidence, and you got to get your first few testimonials or your first few pictures on your website of the work you're doing, or the reviews of whatever business it is, and yeah, I guess I would really say, as long as you're covering the costs when you're starting, I wouldn't really too much worry about it. But as you get going, like, you don't want to be 3, 4, 5 years into it and still charging those sort of prices. For landscaping, for instance, I wouldn't even look at jobs under 5 grand. You know what I mean? I might look at them and say, "Oh, look, you can give me 2 grand cash or whatever. I'll come on the weekend and do something."
Yeah.
But that's obviously not right. But yeah, I mean, but you got to build up to that. When I first started my business in WA, my first invoice was like $40, and then I worked up my last job, my landscaping business. I just shut down a couple of years ago. It was a $50,000 job, but you don't you don't start at the $50,000 job. You work your way up to that, and yeah, it's an interesting thing, the pricing and how to price and what to charge, and being confident, and also knowing, like, feeling the market a little bit. Like, if you're a bit quieter, you can drop your price a little bit, and yeah, it's an interesting thing. But I mean, yeah, I reckon, and even, like, excuse me, when people are starting, like, just getting your first few customers, because yeah, one customer, like you said, they know 20 people, and it's often, and even when you just say for landscaping or whatever, some sort of service-based business, if you're out and about and people see you in the community, and then you might, like, a neighbour might come over and say hello, and you start to build momentum. But if you price too high to start with, sort of, you can't get that momentum. But after a while, you're like, yeah, I only do jobs that are 100 grand, you know what I mean, or whatever it is. But you don't start at the finish, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, it's falls back again onto your target audience. So if your target audience is the elite, then
mm,
you're hanging out at the Palazzo Versace. Like,
mm,
that's where you're hanging out and that's where you're marketing. But that's where you're also paying the big bucks to market to those people. But whereas if you're in, say, the general economy, that's when you look at it and be like, okay, well, the general economy is sitting and paying medium. You don't want to charge too less because then
mm.
people undermine your quality.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
you want to be sitting in that middle field. But what we teach inside the vault is I've actually got a formula where you create, like, you look at how many days off a year do you actually want to have as a business owner? How many
mm,
public holidays there are in a year? There's 19 days as public holidays that you've got to factor in. Are you going to work those days? How
mm,
many actual physical hours have you got to work in the business and work on the business? And then
mm,
you work out all of those little bits of numbers, and then you work out, okay, well, superannuation, you want to pay tax. Like, even if you're not paying tax as a sole trader and you're
mm,
not registered for GST, you still want to have that money aside for a rainy day. Or if you do ever have a tax bill, you want to be
mm,
at least having 11% in a savings account at any given time. And it's like, well, then we work out what's your hourly rate from that.
mm,
Okay, and if we get your hourly rate, how many bits of products do we need to sell to achieve that hourly rate?
mm, mm,
So it's where do we price our services to make sure you're getting that hourly rate? So then you're getting paid your hourly rate for the time that you're actually doing the job,
mm,
but then it's still covering you for when you're not doing the job and not making money. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's great. It goes through, it just makes everything so easy. And because I've spent so many years reading between the lines and listening to the business jargon and understanding all of it, I've learned how to decode all of it and
mm,
pop it in to make it so it's really easy and understandable. And so that it's like, okay, well, it's like a friend talking to you to
mm,
teach you how to run a business. And it's like the feedback that I've received from the course has been really humbling, and it's very nice that people are able to just start their business without any prior knowledge at all. You don't need a business degree.
yeah,
Like I had a friend who's got his master's in business, and I'm looking at doing my master's as well. But he's just like, essentially what you teach is what they teach too. So I don't see why you would need to. but
Yeah.
it's a great starting point just to give you the introduction to the business knowledge. And in there, we've got financial glossaries and glossaries on everything. So you learn about, what profit and loss actually means, or
Mm.
there's all these different bits of business jargon that you do need to learn and understand. And it's, in that course, we don't cover AI. So it's teaching you how to build a business outside of AI. You shouldn't
Yep.
need to build a business with AI. So that's starting to become the new trend now too.
Yeah, very good. No, well, I think that's a great place for someone to start, and then they could get some coaching off you if they want to go down that road as well. And yeah, no, that's really cool. So I know you've started a charity as well. Well, tell me a little bit about the charity.
Yeah, so A Mother's Love is the our new organisation that we're starting. So that's been in the back of my mind for a long time since I had my daughter. So A Mother's Love organisation is where we're actually offering bedside support to single mums going through pregnancy alone. Also, we'll be then looking after widowed dads who have lost their wives during the pregnancy or delivery process, helping them with their new bubs as well. And it started when my daughter was born. So with my high risk pregnancy, my ex-husband was too busy working away. He didn't really have a whole lot of time. So it was just me, but then my mum would come along with me to every single appointment. And then I end up, my ex-husband was home at the time when I was due to go in for an emergency cesarean. I said to him, I was like, yeah, it's time. We've got to go to hospital. And he's just like, okay, well, how about, he's like, I'm still working on his mate's car or something. And he's like, well, you drive yourself into hospital and you just let me know when you're getting prepped in for surgery and ready to go. And mind you, this was 4 weeks early. This was a whole lot of pain, a lot of issues. And he's just like, yeah, off you pop. You can go do it by yourself. And I didn't really think at the time because I was so focused on making sure I had a healthy child.
Hmm.
But I lived 40 minutes away from the hospital, so I did that travel, and it wasn't until after the fact I was like, actually, there would be so many mums out there who have this kind of situation that I was in, or they've had to leave a domestic violence situation. 30% of domestic violent relationships sorry, 30% of relationships when they turn into pregnancy can turn into domestic violence. So it's fairly high statistic, which is awful. And a lot of women don't leave because they don't have the support around them. So all we've got, people who have moved to regional towns and they don't have family to be there for them. So that's what A Mother's Love is. So we'll be there for the bedside support for all of the appointments, be there for the delivery, be there for postnatal support, get them ready, get their nurseries ready, give them food and things like that. There's so many different services we'll be offering inside of
Yeah.
it. But yeah, we'll be specializing with working closely with hospitals, and it's all in its very early stages. I'm like you, like I came in, I have no idea about running charities at all. Know about businesses, don't know a thing about charities.
Yeah. No, yeah, and it's an interesting learning curve, but such a great initiative that you're doing because, life is hard enough, let alone trying to do something like having a child on your own with no support. And yeah, I think, I guess people probably realize how lucky they are, but some people, like if you've just, got a really perfect situation, that's great. And we all would want that for everyone. But there's a lot of people that have, really, really dark time, and to have no one there and no one in their corner, and yeah, and to be pregnant and probably scared, and it's a really, really sad situation. So it's a great initiative that you guys are starting.
Yeah, so we'll have all of our women working alongside. So we'll have women only as our social workers,
Yeah,
and we're even looking for retired women
yeah,
who are grandparents themselves or who they can then pass on their knowledge because, the reason why it's called a mother's love is because a mother's love, there's no greater love than a mother's love. And if we can bring in our mother's side, our nurturing
mm.
side, and embed that, then hopefully we can then start to reduce postnatal depression. We can reduce the statistics on that and help babies have a happier life rather than their mums be stressed because mums having stressful pregnancies and things like that it only causes stress bubs.
So when do you hope to start the first support for the women? Like, when are you aiming to have the first sort of mother's love person in there for people?
Hopefully we would love to start recruiting in March next year. We've still got a lot of things to do in terms of the legal assets and things like that, setting up the association. We would
Yep,
like to be registered as a charity
yep,
prior to that, but knowing we don't need to be registered, particularly as a charity, just as we register for a non for profit.
Yep.
then that's okay.
Yeah.
But I would love by May next year, on the Mother's Day next year, we would love to host a mother's luncheon the Saturday before Mother's Day, and that's just a fundraiser awareness for us to start bringing in some money so
Mm.
we can pay our social workers and we can then have transport for our mums because if you have a cesarean you can't travel for 6 weeks, so how are
Mm.
mums meant to get around? So we'll offer that transport support. So we would love to be bringing things on by March next year. It's been a long dream of mine. And I think that's where it comes back to having a purpose is that I heard someone a couple of months ago, I heard someone at the table say, well, I don't have a dream. So how do I know what my dream is? And a woman sat across from her and basically laughed and said, well, how do you not know what your dream is? Like, you're born with a dream. And I was like, well, no, because things happen in your life that will put you on a path to then reach a dream. Like I would have, if I didn't have the pregnancy that I had with my daughter, then I would not know that this is a gap in the market and that I want to actually help people, help women
Mm.
with this situation. That's like every instance can lead you onto a greater being.
Yeah. What a horrible thing to say to that person who said they
Yeah.
didn't know what their dream, because if you've grown up with a lot of trauma and a lot of, addiction and whatever else, and you were told we don't have dreams or blah blah blah, you don't know what someone's gone through. And yeah, quite often, like in life, if you're in survival mode, you're not going to be thinking about a dream or anything. You're just trying to get through this day and get to the next day. So a lot of people are like that. But yeah, unless you've experienced a lot of these things, like one good thing about going through stuff, you get empathy, you get, compassion. And but yeah, I think there's probably a lot of people like that. They don't have a dream because they're just trying to get through today.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. So yeah, so the charity's going to be really exciting. It'll be a dream come true once it's launched and we're able to help our mums and our dads too. Like, a lot of dads out there need a lot of help too.
Yeah, I know you mentioned it before, but what was the dad side of it? I missed it.
So some women when they go through delivery, some women actually lose their lives, but the bub still survives.
And
So
sorry to cut you off.
no,
I
no,
know I've heard of that. How many times a year does that happen? Like in Australia, have you got any rough statistics on that? Because that's a horrible thing.
I don't have the rough statistics, but it actually happens a lot more than what we realize.
So, like, just say hypothetically in Newcastle, it might happen once or two, a couple of times a month or something, maybe at John Hunter or something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
probably easy, maybe 5 or 10 times a month.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's fairly like, and it's not so common in this day and age because our
Yeah.
medical system is so great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a problem. Like I had that risk with me. I have a blood disorder that was causing me to potentially have the possibility of bleeding out when I gave birth. So
Yeah.
I had the potential of me losing my life, not my daughter, but me.
Wow.
So yeah, so a lot, unfortunately, it is part of it that dads become widowed dads.
Wow.
They lose their partner or their wife and then instantly become a single dad and have no idea what to do.
No, that would be extremely hard. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, well, that's super exciting, and yeah, really excited to be able to follow along the process and keep an eye on what you guys are doing. And yeah, it's really great that you've sort of got that time frame in for March next year, which is, well, I didn't know this, but you're saying Mother's Day, so that's really
yeah,
cool. It's good to
yeah,
give yourself, realistic goals. Obviously, you're doing a lot with the business, and you've got that in the background. And that's sort of similar with me. I've set the goal for Christmas next year. Like, there's no point, saying that you're going to do something tomorrow when it's going to take, 8 months or 12 months or whatever. So that's
yeah.
really
So
cool.
I'm not always that smart because I generally do things within a week. I'm just like, yes, I'll do it next week. Like I talked to my girlfriend the other day. She runs her business and she's launching a new program. And I said, oh, cool. When are you launching that? And she's like, oh, February next year. And I was like, whoa. I was like, that is so far away. Like I'm like, how could you do that? I was like,
Yeah.
if I've got an idea, I want to have it done and out in the world in an instant. A Mother's Love has been pushed back so many times. Like it was meant to have its launch this year and just things fell by the wayside and other things took priority. And it was just like, well, yeah, it'll happen when it happens.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah.
No, well, I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying. I've learnt to slow down over the years, you know what I mean? I used to be a lot more a million miles an hour, and I think it's still good, and I want to harness that, but I also have learnt to just, go steady and maintain, and yeah, so. But we all learn, and we all grow, and we all keep moving forward, so it's great to
Yeah.
have you on the show today. It's just been, really lovely getting to chat with you a few times over internet, and yeah, we'll follow each other's progress. And yeah, any other closing thoughts before we go?
No, no, I think it's just, yeah, no matter what stage of life you're at, you can achieve anything. And I think what you're doing, Dan, is amazing. And I can't wait to run our charities alongside each other. I know we'll be learning a lot off each other.
100%. No, it's good to have people in your corner, and it's definitely, we're in Newcastle, and there's a lot of great people, and it's been great for me, and I'm sure you're in the same boat, meeting other people and other business owners, and yeah, it's really cool. It's great doing positive stuff. So all good. All right, Paige. Well, I'll let you go, and we'll talk again soon.
Well, thanks, Danielle. Really appreciate it.
Cheers. Bye, guys.
Bye.